You opened the fridge this morning, saw something, and threw it away. Maybe it was leftovers from 3 days ago. Maybe it was a carton of milk that smelled a little off. Maybe it was a bag of salad that looked suspicious. Whatever it was, you made a decision in about 2 seconds flat. And you felt confident about it. Because you know how food goes bad, right? You've always known. It sits out too long. It gets old. Bacteria gets in. Done. But here's the thing. What if I told you that most people are throwing away food that's perfectly safe to eat? And keeping food that's actually dangerous? Not sometimes. Regularly. What if the rules you've been using your entire life to decide what's safe and what isn't are almost completely made up? Here's what most of us were taught, directly or indirectly. Food goes bad because of time. The older it is, the more dangerous it is. That's why we have expiration dates, right? The date on the package is the deadline. Cross that line, and you're rolling the dice with your stomach. We treat those dates like law. Best before June 3rd. It's June 4th. Into the bin it goes. No debate. No hesitation. And honestly, that logic feels solid. It feels responsible. Like you're protecting yourself and your family. But then you start noticing things that don't quite add up. Your grandmother never looked at a single expiration date in her life, and she lived to 91. You've eaten expired food by accident before and felt completely fine. Meanwhile, you've eaten something totally fresh and spent the night regretting it. How does that work? Or think about this. Honey found in ancient Egyptian tombs, thousands of years old, was still perfectly edible. Thousands of years. But the yogurt in your fridge expires in 2 weeks? Something doesn't add up. So here's the big misunderstanding. And it's one that the entire food industry, and honestly, most of us, have quietly agreed to pretend isn't a problem. The dates on your food? They are not safety dates. Read that again. The best before, use by, sell by, best if used by dates printed on almost everything you eat. They were not designed to tell you when food becomes dangerous. They were designed to tell retailers when food starts to lose its peak quality. That sounds like a small difference. It's not. It's enormous. Here's why it sounds right that dates equal safety. The logic goes, food degrades over time, bacteria grows over time. Therefore, the date marks when degradation has gone too far. Clean, simple, logical. Except that's not how any of this was created. In most countries, food manufacturers choose their own dates. There's no universal standard. No government body running tests and saying, this chicken is safe until exactly the 15th. Companies pick dates based on when they think the food tastes best, when it looks most appealing on the shelf, or, and here's where it gets interesting, when they want you to buy more. A shorter date means you throw it out sooner. You go back to the store. You buy again. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just business. And the result? Millions of tons of food, every single year, thrown away not because it was dangerous, but because a number on a package told us to feel nervous about it. So if dates don't tell us when food is actually unsafe, what does? This is where it gets really interesting. And honestly, a little bit obvious once you hear it. Food spoilage is a biological process. It's driven by microorganisms, bacteria, mold, yeast, and by chemical changes that happen when food interacts with oxygen, heat, and moisture. These things operate on conditions, not calendars. They don't check the date. They respond to their environment. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a campfire. Whether that fire burns for 10 minutes or 10 hours depends on the wood, the wind, the moisture in the air, not on a clock. You can't just say fires last 2 hours and walk away. You have to actually look at it. Food works the same way. Bacteria that make you sick need certain conditions to thrive. They need warmth. They need moisture. They need time, but time only matters alongside those other factors. A piece of bread left on your counter in a warm, humid kitchen will grow mold in 2 days. That exact same bread, stored properly in a cool, dry place, might last 2 weeks. Same bread, completely different outcome. This is why temperature is the single most important factor in food safety. Not the date on the box, the temperature at which food is stored. The danger zone for bacterial growth is between 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, or roughly 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside that range, bacteria can double in number every 20 minutes. Outside that range, the process slows dramatically or stops entirely. Your fridge, when working correctly, keeps food below that zone. Your freezer goes even further. It doesn't kill bacteria, but it puts them in a state of complete suspension. Frozen food doesn't really expire in the traditional sense. It just gradually loses texture and flavor. A steak frozen for a year is not dangerous. It might taste a little flat, but it will not hurt you. And here's the moment where everything clicks. The real question was never, how old is this food? The real question is, what conditions has this food been living in? Think about 2 identical cartons of milk. One was left on a warm counter for 4 hours after you bought it, then refrigerated. The other went straight into the fridge and stayed there. They have the same expiration date, but they are not in the same condition. Not even close. The date treats them as identical. Your nose, your eyes, and your understanding of biology would tell you something very different. This is why your senses, the tools you were born with, are actually more reliable food safety indicators than a printed date. Not for everything, not always, but far more often than we give them credit for. Mold you can see, spoilage you can smell, sliminess you can feel. These are real signals from the food itself, telling you what's actually happening at a biological level. A date printed 6 months ago in a factory cannot do that. Now here's where this gets surprising and a little uncomfortable. The United States alone throws away roughly 80 million tons of food every year. Studies consistently show that a huge portion of that, estimates range from 20 to 40%, is discarded solely because of date labels. Food that was safe, food that was fine, gone because the number made people uneasy. Meanwhile, most foodborne illness outbreaks, the ones that actually send people to hospital, don't come from old food sitting in your fridge. They come from improper handling, cross-contamination, food left in the danger zone too long during preparation, things that happen to perfectly fresh food well before any expiration date comes into play. The food that worries you rarely hurts you. The food you trust completely sometimes does. And the difference almost always comes down to conditions, not calendars. So the next time you open your fridge and reach for something to throw away, pause for just a second. Ask yourself a different question. Not, when does this expire? Ask, what do I actually know about how this was stored? What does it look, smell, and feel like right now? You're not being reckless. You're being accurate. You're using real information instead of an arbitrary number that was never designed to protect you in the first place. The date on your food was built for the shelf. You don't live on a shelf. You've been throwing away perfectly good food. Not because you were careless, because you were following a rule that was never quite telling you the whole truth. Now you know the whole truth. And that yogurt in your fridge that expired 2 days ago? Open it. Give it a sniff. You might be surprised. If this made you look at your fridge a little differently, that's exactly what Ordinary Explained is here for. The things we think we understand until someone actually explains them. If you want more of this, subscribe. Share this with someone who throws away food every single week. And drop a comment below. What's the one food you always throw away the moment it hits the date? Let's talk about it. We'll see you in the next one.